The Alto Knights, the new movie. Let's talk about it.
Trouble so hard.
So, The Alto Knights is the newest movie about true events that happened, about the big crime syndicate that unfolded back in, I can't remember the time period, but it was back, way back. So yeah, obviously it's got Robert De Niro in it, and Robert De Niro, mafia sort of movies. Yeah, sign me up. The trailers looked great. I was like, yo, this actually looks like this could be something special. So I sat down with excitement to watch it. And I walked out of that film, I tell you afterwards, and going, I don't know if they didn't know what they wanted to do with this movie. That's what I honestly felt. I felt like they wanted to do a documentary, but a movie as well. So they were like, let's try and mesh it together. Because it feels like that. It feels like two different things. It feels like a movie on one hand, but then it's like, is this a documentary? Like, is that what's happening here? So I honestly don't think they knew what they wanted to do. Now, I am disappointed in this movie because I was really excited for it. The trailers looked good. It's an interesting story. It's about their syndicate, the crime syndicate, and how, countrywide it was in the United States. Anything to do with that stuff. Robert De Niro, people going behind each other's backs. Oh man, it's like a recipe for success. And it turned out to be one of the most dull, boring things I've ever watched. And I'm sitting there and I was like, yo, who the hell read this script and was like, yeah, this is going to be a banger? I don't understand. So, look, I thought Robert De Niro's performance was decent. It's not anything special or anything like that. It's not Robert De Niro at his absolute best. But it was decent. But this film just lacked something. I don't know what it was. It lacked that, there was parts. I will give it this. There was parts throughout the film where I was engaged and I was like, okay, now we're getting to the nitty gritty part. Like, this is interesting. You see it in trailer. He's just been shot. He's been stabbed in the back. How is this going to handle? Like, how's this all going to happen? Now, granted, I didn't know the story at all. So I didn't know what it was. And I was like, this looks like it's going to. And then it's just like, it dies. And I was like, oh. And the way that it's set up to how the events unfold at the end and how, it all gets pulled down and stuff, I feel like they could have made it, look, I get it. This isn't a documentary, right? This isn't a documentary. Embellish some things. Come on. If you're going to make a movie, now this is a complete documentary. I totally understand going with the 100% truth, following it through no matter how boring it is or anything like that. But if you're doing a movie based on that, embellish some things. You don't need it to be 100% accurate. Just embellish things. Create an atmosphere for me that when all this gets revealed, I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, this man's a mastermind. How this guy just... I never felt like that. So when everything was starting to unfold and the plans were being put in place and everything, I was just sitting there, I was like, that's it? Like, that's literally how I felt. I was like, it's a bit anticlimactic, And then having Robert De Niro narrate certain parts. So the way that it was edited and chopped up was very confusing because you start off with the shooting and then it's like, you jump here, you follow this bit, and then it goes back to this. It's so messy. It's chopped all over the place. And that's what I mean by it feels like a documentary sometimes. Like, you're in the movie moment, and then it goes, Robert De Niro, narrating about the childhood, about how they were friends and stuff, showing old photos and stuff. And I'm sitting there like, so now it's a documentary. What are we doing here? So it's very messy. And I don't think that editing choice was the way to go with this type of movie because it takes away from the scenes that you were just in. You're trying to build this tension up. You're trying to build this atmosphere for things that are going to happen, especially when, what's his name? His best friend is like basically a psychopath. You're building all this up and then you're chopping it into this other bit. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm losing my momentum here. Like, what? Why do we have to do this? Can we not just have a steady flow movie? So that does hinder the pacing of this film quite a lot as well. So when they're doing that, because you're in and then taken out straight away so abruptly, the runtime starts to feel, because you're like, okay, now it's dragging on. And then when you finally get back to the whole where you were at the start with the whole getting shot, you're like, okay, so I'm finally here. So we went on this massive journey here. I already knew this was going to happen. I thought this would have some impact to this moment, but no, the moment, I feel like if you didn't show the moment where he was shot first and had it later on in the film, I feel like that impact there would have been more powerful. But because they showed it so early on and described it, it made that journey at the start feel useless, because it's like, well, I already know what's going to happen. Where if you started at the start and didn't have that and just told this story, showcase these characters and how close they were, when this unfolds, you have more of a connection to them. So it's a bigger impact when this happens. You're like, oh, he just stabbed him in the back. Wow. After all those years, after everything we know about how close they are and everything, he's gone and done that. And I think that has a more impact, and it lasts in your brain a lot longer. Where I was just sitting there, I was like, okay, I already knew this was going to happen, so I'm not really impacted by this at all. So that kind of dampened this film for me. Now, cinematography wise, it's shot decently. Some of the shots are great. Again, there's a lot of like almost like PowerPoint presentations throughout it, and I was kind of like, ugh, I get it, I understand why you're doing that, but I just felt like it didn't work. The music was okay, the score was okay, performances, they were decent. I really did not like the friend of Robert De Niro's character. I think it's Vito, I think his name is, or something like that. Something like that. I did not like him at all. He was just, ugh, just a horrible, horrible person, horrible character. They all were, but yeah, just some of the scenes were lacking. They really were, and I really put it down to the structure of this film. I think that is ultimately what falls here, is that structure. I feel like if you re-edited this, moved things around, I think you could create a much better film that flows a lot better, that has a lot more impact and atmosphere than what we got with this film. And look, I was someone that was really excited for this. The trailers looked good. I love Robert De Niro in these type of films, so I was I was hoping this was gonna be good, man, but it was not. It was not. It was very much below average, and I was very disappointed in this film. And yeah, I'm be honest, just wait for it. You don't need to go see it. But then again, you might like it. And there's probably some people that did like it. But hey, for me, it didn't work. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe you did see it and you loved it. Let me know. What did you think of The Alto Knights? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Smash it down in the comment section below. Smash that like button. Click subscribe. And I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe. And peace out.